There were 10 minutes and 29 seconds left in the fourth quarter, my friend, and the score was 21-17. It was a preseason game like any other, in a legendary stadium in Wisconsin, with one team ahead and the other trying to answer. Then a seventh-round rookie went to cover a short pass, collided head-on with a teammate of his own, and lay motionless on the grass. He did not move. The entire team knelt around him. The stretcher came onto the field. And that night, the two head coaches, two men who had spent their whole careers fighting for every inch, looked at each other and agreed on one thing. This game was not going to continue. They ended it right there. 3 years later, almost on the exact anniversary of that night, that same young man just signed a contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. The truth is that this player's story carries a calendar coincidence so cruel it reads like a movie script, and his first stop wearing an Eagles uniform is going to be in the very city that discarded him. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel right now, because the cut down to 53 is coming, and this is one of the most human signings Philadelphia has made all year. Let us set the scene. On Monday morning before practice, Jeff McLean of the Philadelphia Inquirer reported a roster move that looked purely bureaucratic, the kind that slips by unnoticed on most teams. The Eagles announced they had signed a cornerback and released an offensive lineman. The cornerback stands 6'2", weighs 205 pounds, and ran the 40-yard dash in 4.35 seconds before the draft. He was a seventh-round pick of the New England Patriots, selection number 245 out of Jackson State, and he was the only player from a historically black college or university drafted that entire year. His name is Isaiah Bolden, and it is worth understanding who this young man was before that night. Bolden began his college career at Florida State, but transferred to Jackson State and became a central piece of one of the most talked about programs in the country, playing under Deion Sanders. On the other side of the field, at the opposite cornerback spot, was a kid who years later would win the Heisman Trophy and go second overall in the 2025 draft. Bolden was named an All-American kick returner among historically black colleges, and in his final college season, he piled up 44 tackles and 7 pass breakups, earning second-team All-Conference honors. Football, by the way, is a family business. His father, Jerran Bolden, played 8 seasons in the NFL for the Falcons, Packers, Chiefs, Jaguars, and Buccaneers, plus another 4 years in the Canadian League. Then came August 19th, 2023, at Lambeau Field, the second preseason game of his life. Bolden went to cover a short reception and ran head-on into his own teammate, linebacker Calvin Munson. He hit the ground and did not get up. He lay motionless, apparently unconscious, until the medical staff arrived. He was immobilized, placed on a stretcher, and taken by ambulance to a hospital in Green Bay, where he spent the night under observation. The Patriots' official statement that night carried the only sentence that mattered. He had feeling in all his extremities. The next day, he was discharged and flew home with the team. He wrote on social media that he was grateful for the prayers and even more excited to get back around his teammates. The game was never resumed. The Patriots also canceled the joint practices they had scheduled with the Titans the following week. What came after is the part fans rarely see. Bolden finished that rookie season on injured reserve. The next year, he went to the practice squad, was promoted to the active roster, and finally played 14 games, 10 tackles, and 1 fumble recovery, splitting his work between defense and special teams. It looked like the career had finally broken through. It had not. He was cut by New England before the start of the following season. He signed with the San Francisco practice squad in December and was released 6 days later. 6 days. And then he did what hundreds of players do when the NFL door closes. He went to play in an alternative league, suiting up for the Louisville Kings, trying to generate fresh tape and catch somebody's eye. Somebody did. And the reason has a name: Jacorian Bennett. Bennett left the preseason game against Baltimore early with an injury and never returned. The hole was immediate and visible. Mac McWilliams essentially played the entire game at cornerback because there simply were not enough bodies available. Teams do not sign alternative league veterans on a Monday morning out of romanticism. They sign them because the room is empty and because there are 2 joint practices and another game to get through before the cut. Bolden is, at this moment, exactly what locker room language calls a camp body. Somebody to absorb reps and let the team get through the entire preseason without breaking anyone else. And there is another name in this equation, one almost nobody is mentioning: Holland Pierce. Pierce was released to open the spot. He arrived in Philadelphia as an undrafted free agent in 2025, out of Rutgers, standing 6'8", and he was one of the most expensive signings in that undrafted class. He was nominated for the trophy that honors the best player in the country who began his career as a walk-on, without a scholarship. He spent almost his entire rookie season on the practice squad, trying to develop. He did not play at all in the first preseason game. And on Monday morning, he got the call. That is how it works. An injury at one position triggers a signing, and the signing triggers a release at a completely different position. A player who did everything right loses his job because of an ankle that rolled on the other side of the field. And there is one more layer to this story that makes it almost literary. Bolden was taken with pick number 245 in that draft. One pick later, at number 246, the Philadelphia Eagles called the name of a defensive tackle named Moro Ojomo. 3 years later, Ojomo is a rotational piece on a championship defensive line and is discussing a multi-million-dollar extension. Bolden is signing a survival contract with the same team, in the same week. 2 lives separated by a single draft pick. And the next stop? New England. The Eagles travel for joint practices with the Patriots on Wednesday and Thursday, with a game Saturday at Gillette Stadium, which means Isaiah Bolden's first day of work in a Philadelphia uniform is going to be in front of the team that drafted him, watched him nearly end his career on that field, and then let him go. He does have one quiet advantage in that environment. The Eagles' secondary coach, Mike Pellegrino, was his cornerbacks coach in New England. They already know each other, already work together, already speak the same technical language. And that is why we need to be fair and transparent here. First, this is not a competitive reinforcement. Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Rick Woolen are locked in, and Jonathan Jones, Mac McWilliams, Keely Ringo, and Jacorian Bennett are already fighting each other for the last spots. Bolden's climb to the 53-man roster is nearly vertical, and the realistic scenario is a battle for a practice squad job. Second, the medical history is a factor that cannot be swept under the rug. He spent his rookie season on injured reserve after a serious episode, and franchises examine that under a microscope. The advantage here is that 3 seasons have passed since then, with steady professional activity in between. Third, there is a real counter-argument in his favor, and it is called special teams. Bolden was an All-American kick returner, he is 6'2", and he runs a 4.35. That combination of size and speed is exactly the profile that decides jobs at the bottom of a roster, and his familiarity with Pellegrino shortens the adjustment period to the scheme. And fourth, the cost is 0. A survival contract, no meaningful guaranteed money, no salary cap impact. If he impresses in the joint practices, Philadelphia gets cheap depth. If he does not, he goes out in the cuts without leaving a trace on the books. There is no scenario in which this signing hurts the team. So the question I leave with you, Eagles fan, comes in 3 parts. First, do you think a player who lived through a night like that and still kept going deserves a real shot at a practice squad job? Or does sentiment have no place in the math of a roster chasing a title? Second, if Jacorian Bennett does not recover in time, would you rather Philadelphia bet on Bolden or go after a more experienced veteran on the market? And third, how many players like Holland Pierce do you think lose their jobs every August without anyone ever even learning their names? Leave your opinion in the comments. Do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I will be back later to update you with the latest Eagles news.